You can see your this mock exam one is actually, well, all our mock exams are practice exams, but this is strategically placed near your lectures. No? So after your 2 lectures, your outside and your tourism personality, then the 2 installments of mock exams are here already. And after your IO and psych assessment, you will also have another 2 mock exams. And then after all those first mock exams, you will have other mock exams wherein it will be scheduled all together, no? All exams. You will take it in 2 days straight. So actually, this mock exam is an aid for you to do your review. No? But of course, you'll be able to see where you are right now after all the lectures that you did with tourism personality and also abnormal psychology. No? So everyone is finished already with the exam. Lahat naman kumuha ng exam. Okay. Sige. If you were not able to take the exam, so you can hope to go out and do it on your own pace and time. Or if you want to prioritize listening to the answers, it's okay. So I give you the liberty to either take the exam first and then you just watch the videos later, or you just go straight with the rationalization if you are not able to take the exam. But of course, you will not be able to measure your learning compared to what you have already reviewed. Okay, so everyone has their yung theories of personality na mga exam. So yung mga exam na yan, sa inyo na yan, no? Ang kukunin lang namin yung answer sheets. Now, regarding the answer sheets, no, I do hope you were able to listen with our assistants on how to fulfill the answer sheets. No? So, as always, no, every time na may maka-exam tayo, you always bring pencil number 2, di ba? Para wala tayong problema. Huwag nyo nang ipilit na ball pen, no? Hindi talaga po pwede yung ball pen, hindi siya ma-scan ng Scantron machine. And you also need to shade the appropriate subject boxes, the set box. Kasi lahat yan, kapag sinet namin yan for scanning, hindi namin yan pinabundle. Hindi namin yan pinabundle whether it's theories of personality or abside or whatever. At hindi rin namin siya pinabundle per section. Sabay-sabay siya lahat. So it's the machine who will check whether it's POP or abside. Okay, just like in the board exam, diba? So you can just imagine kung sa board exam, ipabundle pa nila yun per venue, per subject. It would be a great hassle. So ang standard job, kung sasama-samahin yan, is scan, and the identification of the subject or the answer key depends on what you shade. No? So, importante yun, okay? So kapag may na-miss na papers, ibig sabihin may namali na scanning. Kaya iniisa-isa din assistants natin yung answer sheets ninyo para sure na tama yung shading nyo. In the future, magiging habit nyo na tama yung shading ninyo. Okay? So, sige. Okay, so let's start with TOP, and I think this will be a long and fast discussion. Remember, this is big 100 items yung outside in TOP. But as you can see, just like what I said in the orientation, the way we created the mock exam, it's the methodology is actually we ask questions from the professors. We also have a pool of questions coming from different books, different practice exams, because well, pragmatically, the board members will probably also do the same kind of methodology. No? Most of their questions are actually inspired from the books and the questions or the test banks that probably they have already. And even the student, even our students in the past will always tell na support exam, may mga questions sa akin na naulit na from the mock exams. No? Hindi na ako magtataka doon kasi the way the board members create their mock exam, we mirror the same methodology. So, kaya may mga parehas na questions that may collision of items. So it's your advantage actually, no? to have those kinds of practice exams wherein it highly mirrors what will probably appear in the board exam. Okay. Now also don't be surprised if in the future there might be some items that will repeat. No, probably it's really created that way so that we can measure whether the students are actually learning from their mistakes during the previous mock exams. But probably this is very seldom, and most of the time, most of the questions, every mock exams are new questions. Okay, so but of course, don't be surprised if we will be infusing some clincher questions where it appeared already in the previous, but it's really difficult, so we needed to include them again just to measure or just to tickle the students if they really understood what they have done with the rationalization. Okay? So, sige. So, let's proceed with years of personality. So, item number 1. So, this is just a very easy question. You probably got this correct. This is letter. Ano sagot nyo? Dog, di ba? No? Personality theory that is most likely to use an objective test. Diba? Now, remember, as highlighted in our lectures, no, the subjects in your board exam are actually have connections with each other. There's a nexus between TOP and ABSCII, TOP and site assessment, and even TOP with IPO. Same with the ABSCII, with TOP, etc. The list goes on. No? So between theories of personality and assessment, what's the link between them? No? Of course, you understand that with psychological assessment, the psychological tests that you will be using, most of them are actually inspired by a certain theoretical perspective. No? So wala namang psych test na out of the blue, naging psych test without any theoretical basis. Definitely, they adhere to a certain theoretical perspective. And at the same time, each of the theories will also have their own way of assessing certain things. Diba? For example, with the psychoanalytic perspective, with the psychodynamic perspective, what are some of the ways you can assess certain concepts under that perspective? Ano po mga concepts under psychoanalytic perspective? You have the id, you have the ego, you have the consciousness, diba? So, all those things, for you to understand your client, you need to have an assessment. No? So, may assessment techniques. So, for example, with sa psychoanalytic, katulad to, with the choice letter A, anong klaseng assessment technique ang ginagamit dyan? Can you give some? Freud has something in his tools, no? Dream analysis, hypnosis, diba? Free association, diba? And of course, the interview will do its stuff as long as they will ask the right questions related to the psychoanalytic perspective. How about with the cognitive perspective? So, ano mga concepts with the cognitive perspective? Probably, you will be very interested with what? Cognitive distortions, diba? Faulty schema, and all those things. Probably, in the cognitive perspective, you can already administer certain tests and interview that will measure those things. No? And with the humanistic, ito, medyo challenging with the humanistic. Diba? So, what are some of the tools that you can use with the humanistic, similar also with the psychoanalytic, interview, observation. But with the trait perspective, this will be the most objective. No? And the question is asking for the most. So meron tayong qualifier. So in the board exam, you need to be very careful with answering questions like this. No? As simple as this can be tricky. For example, probably most of you will be answering letter B or letter E. But most of our students in the past with the analysis that we get, no? So kasi sa inyo, we do the rationalization after. No? So in the future, we will give you the item by item analysis with other mock exams. Actually, ito rin bibigyan din namin kayo. Pero for the benefit of our discussion, we will proceed with the discussion. Pero most of the students are confused between P and E, learning. Now, in the learning perspective, or that's actually behaviorist, right? How do you measure or how do you assess certain concepts in the behaviorist perspective? Siyempre, tinitignan niyo behavior. So, number one would be very salient, very important would be what? Observation. Now, we can argue that observation is actually objective. No? But how will you make the observation objective? Paano siya magiging objective? Yes, you will be we will be probably using some checklists, guidelines on how to do it. Now the problem is if there will be lapses between how the test, the observer or the test administrator will do those checklists, then the problem is what? So, hindi magtutugma yung tamang observation versus doon sa hinahanap na criteria na behavior. No? So, that is one problem in the behaviorist perspective when it comes to observation. And at the same time, two observers may have different what? Different observation or different ratings to a certain observation. Kaya, di ba may mga inter-rater reliability when it comes to observation and some of the behavioral checklists. And at the same time, for example, with ADHD, gumagawa rin sila ng parang triangulation, no? Na they will check the observation ng parents, observation ng teacher, no? And then observation ng clinician. So, imagine pag nagkaiba-iba yun, so how can we really say that this is something very objective? So of course, there will be explanation why there's a difference. Pero with the trait perspective, no, we're talking about what? Self-rated tools ito, di ba? Self-administered. So talagang kung ano yung perception niya sa sarili niya, yun yung isusulat niya. And most of the personality tests, especially those adhering with the trait perspective, talagang there's no other way but to measure the traits as is, objectively, paper and pen, or computer assisted, okay, parehas lang din. Pero you cannot go wrong because whatever the patient reported, as is yun. So that's the explanation why it's letter D more than any others, no? Okay. Proceed tayo number 2. Psychologists are most likely to agree that, so we're talking about assumptions regarding theoretical perspective. You should have answered letter dog. None of the above. Bakit? This is actually easy, pero some of the students are confused because of the wordings. No? So, yung letter A, alam naman natin hindi siya there's half truth about it. No? It's not just about 3 personality traits. No? But to critically assess the Big 5 personality, is the Big 5 personality also enough for us to explain? No, we can argue it's universal when it comes to how we observe it to different cultures. Pero iba-iba rin yung markers and the way we express it. Kaya nga ngayon, mas importante to look into the lower order traits. No? Are you familiar with the higher order versus lower order traits? The higher order traits are the Big 5, or kung yung kay Isaac, yung Big 3, o yung Hexaco, the Big 6, whatever. Those are the higher order traits. Those are parang umbrella traits that influences the the other characteristics and tendencies that a person can do. So there's what you call the lower order traits na mas proximal to a certain behavior. No? So for example, with extroversion, diba? That's a higher order trait. Pero being outgoing, o kung halimbawa no, being vocal, or being assertive, yung mga yun, it's a way to what? To say na a certain person is leaning towards extroversion. Pero those characteristics are actually the lower order traits that influences the behavior that they are doing. Kaya nga minsan, sinasabi nila, ay ako introverted ako. Well, totoo. For example, ako, lagi ko sinasabi introverted ako. Every time na nag-take ako ng personality test, lumalabas, mataas ang introversion. Pero people will not believe. Kasi malakas daw ang boses ko. And then, I'm relatively articulate. At saka paano ba tuturo isang taong introverted? Di ba dapat introverted, mahihain, ganyan. Hindi, alam niyo naman yung misconception about that. So, I'm introverted because I'm not that outgoing. Pero I'm relatively assertive and vocal when it comes to my ideas. So, kung mapapansin nyo, those things are lower order traits of extroversion. Pero meron ako nun, at mataas sa akin yun. So, ibig sabihin, it's more important for us, for research purposes, to look into the lower order traits because it's more proximal to the behavior that we are expressing. Okay? Ngayon, tatanungin mo, ilan ba ang lower order traits ng mundo? O sa tao, no? Yun ang problema. We don't have the list, no? Because there's a lot of characteristics that you can measure. No? And as you can see, you cannot boil it down to the 3 or 5. No? It will not be complete for us to do it. Number, yung letter B, personality refers mostly to the surface appearance. Of course, you know that this is not the way to describe personality. Even letter C, no, there's a single best definition. Kung may single best definition of personality, then sana wala tayong theories of personality na ang dami-daming theoretical perspective at ang dami-daming mga pinagsasabihin tungkol sa personality. And even within the perspective, may iba-iba rin silang notion or the way they provide explanation. No? Psychodynamic pa lang, ang dami na nilang humanistic ganun din. Diba? So, the best answer is letter 2. Number 3, pattern of relatively permanent traits, unique characteristics give both consistency. So, obviously, this is letter A, no? So, kung baga mapapansin nyo, yung mock exams ninyo will also serve as a review material. Kasi, habang binabasa nyo siya in the future, habang nag-review kayo, or nagpa-practice kayo ulit nitong mga exams niyo, nadadaanan yung mga concepts na kailangan ninyong aralin. So don't be surprised if some of the questions are, paano ba ito? Parang obvious naman ito nandito. No? Because, believe me, no, as simple as this question, sa item analysis namin, may mga 2-3 pa rin. Okay? So, nagkakamali, no? So out of hundreds, meron pa rin. So number 4 now, which term should be most closely associated with the word theory? So of course, it's letter C, science. No? Kaya nga diba scientific way of doing things, even with the definition natin sa psychology. So alam niyo na, it's theory, it's science. No? And to be more specific, no, you need to do hypothesis testing, you need to test, you need to evaluate your theory. It's the scientific method, diba? So it's science, no? The speculation is although related, pero it will not best describe. Of course, for example, marami na tayong speculation sa buhay, pero hindi mo siya naging theory. No? So, you can see, theory is will follow the scientific method of discovering things. No? Anong taxonomy? Yung letter B. Yung taxonomy is a way to categorize. Parang yung DSM-5 natin, di ba? It's a taxonomy, it's a nosological system. Okay? Now, in some of the personality theories, meron din silang tinatawag na personality typology. You're familiar with that, di ba? Carl Jung has a typology, di ba? The trait perspective, you can combine some of those traits and you will create a typology. No? If you are in the industry, if you're an HR officer doing some recruitment and selection, probably meron kayong mga company tools wherein you can categorize a certain employee or a prospective employee, whether they are from this line of work, o pang call center ba sila, o mas okay pa sila for financial side of the business. So that's actually categorizing certain personality traits into what? Into labels, into categories. Yun yung typology, di ba? So that is more related with the taxonomy. Okay? Sige. Number 5, theory can be defined as what? Number 5, dapat tama kayo dito, letter D. Set of related assumptions that will generate hypotheses. So under isang theory, under a theory, you can create lots of hypotheses that will what? That will adhere to the certain assumption of that theory. No, di ba? So minsan yung mga theory may mga sets of parang rules siya or ideas. And then from there, merong hypothesis na lalabas. And that's what you will be doing when you do your research. Pag na-prove mo yung hypothesis na tama, ibig sabihin, na-prove din na tama yung certain idea when it comes to that theory. Unless, no, otherwise, there is what? A competing finding that will invalidate that hypothesis or that idea. So, yun nga yung iwan ng hypothetical deductivism, no, as part of theory testing, di ba? So, ano ba yung iba? Unverified hypothesis. No? So, kulang siya, no? And even the educated guess. Di ba? Sa social media, dami educated guess, di ba? Lahat ng comment. Ang tatalino ng mga tao, lahat may lahat ng forensic na ngayon, di ba? Number 6, which statement best reflects the relationship between theory and hypothesis? Kumbaga, nadaanan na natin to with our discussion. Dapat, alam nyo na ang sagot ay letter B, a single theory, several hypotheses. Pwede yun eh. No? So that will be the best answer here. Yung most of the students are being confused by letter C and D in the past. Ano explanation there? Ano explanation dyan? No, yung letter D, baliktad eh. Ang hypothesis ang pwedeng ma-prove. Pero that proving of the hypothesis will just give you what? A small piece of truth about the theory. No? Na-prove mo nga yung hypothesis na yan, pero ang daming hypothesis na pwedeng ma-brought out when it comes to that theory. So the theory cannot be proven directly. You will what? You will resort to the hypothesis or to the assumptions related to that theory. Okay? So, mas tama yung statement dapat that hypothesis can be proven to support that theory. Ganun dapat yung statement niya. Bakit mali yung letter C? Theory flow logically from specific hypothesis. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you need to have a lot of hypotheses to prove a simple point of the theory. For example, as simplistic as the behaviorist perspective, na talagang alam naman it's as simple as stimulus response. Di ba ganun lang yan eh? Stimulus response. Pero ganun ba ang idea natin when it comes to how we crave for a certain food? Ganun lang, pag may naamoy, gutom agad, kain agad. Hindi eh. Sometimes you were able to control your hunger. Bakit? What happened along the way? So kung yun lang titignan mo, it will not prove the theory. You need to have sets of hypotheses to prove it right so that you can support that, hey, sound theory pa rin ito. Kasi, ito kasi yung related hypothesis niya, okay? So, so the best answer would be letter boy. Number 7, hypothesis is best defined as what? Letter dog. Okay? Prediction. Pero, what is good with this educated guess is we can subject it to what? We can subject it to scrutiny, to experimentation, to observation, no? To the scientific method. Okay? Oh, number 8, taxonomies. Oh, ito yung explain natin kanina. Number 8, it's letter A, system of classifying data, labeling of data, di ba? Oh, and then the rest is not actually related to the taxonomy. Distractor and that. Number 9, what is the relationship among theory, hypothesis, and observation? Okay, so alam nyo, these are all related. Paano sila related? It's letter boy. Ano yung letter boy? Yung theories, syempre, it will produce hypothesis, di ba? And this hypothesis will lead to observation by way of research. And then iikot yun, kasi you will be able to validate or create another idea about it, and it will what? Be contributed back to the theory. Or strengthen the theory if you were not contributing new things. At least it will be strengthened. Okay? Number 10, information that is not available to conscious awareness, too damaging. This is very easy, obvious letter, boy. Unconscious. Pero may mga nagkakamali pa rin dito, in fairness. So, pakandaan nyo lang na, kasi item number 10 pa lang ito eh. Kumbaga sa kotse, hindi pa nag-iinit yung neurons, no? O baka nagsa-synaptogenesis pa lang along the way. Anyhow, don't be sad if you have mistakes here. Yun nga ang purpose ng mga exam, di ba? Fail early, no? Magkamali ka na magkamali early in your review para pagdating sa board exam, maitatama nyo na lahat. Diba? O, kahit sa management, ganyan din ang style ngayon eh. No? Sa Facebook, gano'n ang style nila. Fail early. Para matutunan mo na yung lesson early on. Oh. So, anong common na nagkakamali ang bata sa number 10? Sa sa pre-conscious. No, dyan sila lagi nagkakamali, tsaka sa pre-subconscious. Yan, dyan sila nagkakamali, no? Obviously, it's unconscious, right? Number 11, a theory should be open to disconfirmation. Refer to ability to be falsified, letter dog. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, there are characteristics of theories that will make a theory a viable one or a hocus-pocus one. No? And you know that a theory needs to be what? Parsimonious, needs to be, it can be subjected to scrutiny and create hypothesis. It can be falsified. And otherwise, kung hindi siya pwede ma-falsify, ibig sabihin, law na siya, di ba? And, sige. Now, yung sa 11, most of the choices, tama naman to describe a theory. Pero specifically for this confirmation, it's letter boy. No? Ay, letter dog, no? Falsified. No? Dog. 11 dog. 12, a related set of if and then assumption would constitute a C theory. Yun naman, di ba? Parang yun na yung definition natin kanina nung umpisa. Related set. Siguro kung isang set lang, baka hypothesis lang yun. Pero actually, I doubt it. Kasi a certain assumption can result to other hypotheses as well. For example, one of the most parsimonious theory that you can cite in a psychological theory will be the theory of plant behavior. And the basic assumptions there is, for example, your personal notion about a certain behavior, your attitude about certain behavior will influence your intention. Assumption yun, isa lang. Pero hindi pa rin siya hypothesis. No? May tatlong basic assumptions ang theory of plant behavior. Your attitude can influence your intention, the subjective norm or your perception mo about the other people either agreeing or disagreeing to you doing the activity will influence your behavior also. And then the other one is whether you have this control to do it. Can you really do a certain behavior? Can you really do the board exam? Can you really do, or can you do your review for the rest of this months to come? Those are assumptions, ideas about the theory. Pero hindi pa rin siya ang hypothesis. Kasi a certain assumption like attitude, pwede siya mag-produce ng maraming hypothesis. Anong pwedeng hypothesis? Do my religious affiliation affects my behavior? Kasi certain religious affiliation will have a series of attitude towards a certain behavior. Condom use, family planning, all of those things. Do my gender affect my attitude towards a certain behavior? Another hypothesis na. Pero lahat yun nandun sa isang assumption. May tatlo pang assumption. So, ang dami-dami ng daming hypothesis na pwedeng magawa. So, related set of those will constitute or will be what? The product is theory. Okay? Number 13. Humanistic psychologists see people as inherently good. Diba? Napakabuti natin lahat. Kaya yan ay, they believe they try to reach their potential letter boy, self-actualization. Kaya ngayon ang isang abrupt assumption, hasty assumption when it comes to humanistic perspective. Kasi ang assumption niya, people are inherently good. So ngayon, pag tinanong mo, how can people be psychopathological kung humanistic perspective ang pag-uusapan? So, pinaka-hasty generalization there is that the person becomes bad. Diba? The person suddenly was not able to self-actualize, hindi niya na nagawa yung mga bagay na makakapagpanatili ng kanyang inherent goodness. Di ba, na yan, diba? So, there's a lot of critical concerns regarding that. So anyway, number 14, according to a learning perspective, the most important determinant of how we behave in any given situation. 14, a previous learning history. But we're talking here for the benefit of the board exam. As you can see, the other choices, you know that this is not related to the behaviorist perspective. But whether or not previous learning can really influence a certain behavior you have right now, it's up to the research to decide, okay? And you know that a lot of behaviors may be influenced depending on the context. So minsan, previous learning can be beneficial and can result to a better behavior, to the appearance of the behavior later on. Pero meron naman hindi. No, it's up to the research to decide for that. And you know what I'm talking about there. Number 15, useful theory should be what? 15, letter do. All of the above. No? 16, internally consistent theory. 16 should be letter do. Bakit yun ang sagot? Now, when it comes to internal consistency, anong ibig sabihin nun? So, it does not contradict to each other. And well, when we talk about internal consistency, we're talking about reliability. But specifically, as a concept related to theory, we're talking about whether these assumptions are what? Will support each other or related to each other. No? And the way you the way to evaluate that is what? You need to measure. You need to check. How are these assumptions related to each other? Well, you need to go back to the client. You need to go back to a certain group and assess and do measurement. And you need to operationalize those definitions. Para makita mo kung related nga sila with each other. And that's how you will say that there's internal consistency with a certain theory. Okay? Number 17 na tayo. A theory that is simple as possible. Alam niyo na, parsimonious ito, letter boy. Number 18, explanation of behavior in terms of future goals and purposes. Alam niyo na, 18 is dope, no? By the term teleological. Parang na-discuss natin ito pero in the light of ethics, no? Yung deontology and teleology. No, with teleology, pag narinig yung term na teleological or teleology, we're talking about the outcomes later on, no? Yung future outcome. Katulad yan, future goals, no? So, number 19, when talking about ego defense mechanisms, which of the following results conflict of egos and superego, you know, it's A, anxiety. And that is something that the ego doesn't want to happen. Kaya may mga defense mechanism nga tayo ginagawa na ego. Well, number 20, while working with your project partner, ano nangyari? Feel like coward, blame the outcome on the cowardness. Alam niyo na, when there is blaming, this is a characteristic of what defense mechanism. We're talking about projection, letter boy. Diba? So, just to preempt some of our discussions, probably in the future mga at least you know it already, we can argue that projection is a special kind of rationalization. No? You are explaining things para hindi sa'yo mapunta yung blame, pero the way you explain it is you blame another person. So once there's an element of blaming another person, direkta tao yung biniblame mo, that is projection already. Pero pag ang style mo, nalate kasi ako kasi traffic, tapos may nagkakulihan pa, may nabungko, ganyan. Rationalization na yun. No? Para mawala sa'yo yung sisi, para hindi ka ma-anxious doon sa idea na ikaw talaga nagkamali, you will cite some explanation. That's rationalization. Pero kapag ang explanation mo is kasi yung kapatid ko ang tagal sa banyo maligo. So, direkta tao na yung pinigyan. That's projection. Okay? So, malinaw yung nuance distinction niya. Okay? Number 21, and we have a case. A case is Mr. B, consultant psychologist, possible psychotherapy, referred to you for evaluation. Problems with sexuality, wanting to have intimate relationship with same-sex, etc., etc. 21, adopting a psychodynamic explanation. You may argue that Mr. B has problems with what? 21 should be letter boy. Oedipal complex. No? We are talking about gender issues here. And, well, the data will not tell us whether there's a gender dysphoria, whatever. Pero the mere fact that it's about gender issues, you know that with the developmental stage na pinropose ni Freud, no? the psychosexual stages that we have, gender development is salient on what stage? It's on the it will be letter B, no? That the concept about Oedipal complex. Kasi Mr. B ito lalaki siya It will be on that stage. And Oedipal complex happened on what stage? Hindi pa na stage yung nilagay, it's concept, no? Pero still, the Oedipal complex is on what stage? Nasa phallic stage. So, wala namang phallic dito. Pero the related would be letter boy, Oedipal complex. Diba? Most of time kasi, people will attribute gender issue with the genital stage. No? Actually, it's not. The precursor to the gender development happens during the phallic stage, as early as those periods of time. Anong period yung binabanggit ko? Anong age range yan? Ang panic stage. Anong age range yan? Somewhere around 3 to 6. That is preschool. Diba? That's the age group. That's preschool. Oh. So, dun pala, no? And even doing away with the psychodynamic perspective, the other mainstream researchers regarding gender development will tell us that by the magic number is actually age 3. No? By the age 3, no, gender stability is starting to strengthen. So whatever gender polarity or whatever that they assume during those age, that will be the one that will be strengthened. But of course, environmental effects will also can divert or can strengthen otherwise. No? So number na tayo. 22. Freud and other psychoanalytic theories believe that letter C. Yan nga yung basic, isa sa mga basic assumptions ng psychoanalytic or psychodynamic perspective, especially in developmental stages ang pinag-uusapan natin. No? It's actually the childhood events. What happened to you in the past. Okay? Oh, sige, just to have a brainstorming with number 22, no? So as you can see, letter A is directly opposite of the letter C. So you should have not answered letter A. Kasi nga, if you will have a psychopathology, kung naman may nangyari in the past, may past na hindi nangyari, may trauma na nangyari, whatever, or you were able to develop certain sets of defense mechanism, and then now you are used to using it excessively, kaya may psychopathology ka. It's not the adult line. Now, yung letter B, you should have not answered letter B. Bakit? Characteristics of person will result to various outcomes. Ano ang binabanggit sa letter B? Is this psychoanalytic per se? Hindi eh. Ano yan? Probably trait, no? Oh. How about letter 2? Perception about life events will affect decision-making later on in life. Is this even psychodynamic or psychoanalytic? Mas saan siya? It leans toward to what? Moral cognitive. Diba? How you assess what's happening to you. Ayan, yung perception about life events. How you explain what happened to you. Oh, diba parang locus of control yun? No? Oh. So doon pa lang, dapat A and C na lang pinagpipilihan nyo. Diba? Oh. Number 23. Psychologist that supervises you wanted to look into the potential outcomes of Mr. B based on his strengths. Which of the following theories? Oh, alam nyo na to. Madali lang to. 23 is letter? Oh, letter A. So ngayon, we're talking about strengths. Oh, edi syempre we will be looking into Abraham Maslow, no, humanistic. 24. Mr. B believes that he has his own identity that should be followed. However, he also believes that people's opinion about him important to consider, which there's a two opposing corollaries here, and you know that based with Kelly's corollary, dapat to ay pasok sa 24 letter to fragmentation. Diba? Yan yung equivalent ng ng ambivalence, diba? Or ng cognitive dissonance. Ambivalence will lean more towards the psychodynamic perspective. When we say the term ambivalence, if I'm not mistaken, even with Euler's criteria regarding schizophrenia, Euler's 4 A's, diba? So, isa doon is ambivalence. That will explain catatonia. or catatonic behavior. Sabi nila, bakit may catatonic behavior ang isang client na may schizophrenia? So, in the past, mga sinaunang panahon, wherein psychodynamic and psychoanalytic perspectives are the one that's creating explanation. So, sabi nila, ambivalent daw yung taong yun. No? Hindi niya alam kung ano ba talaga dapat niyang gawin. Maraming tumatakbo sa isip niya. No? Sa dami ng gusto niya at hindi niya gustong gawin, or sa hindi na siya kumilos, hindi siya makakilos. No? So, related idea with a cognitive perspective would be cognitive dissonance. And with Kelly's idea about this concept would be fragmentation. Now, we will not deal deeper with the idea whether Kelly is a cognitivist or whatnot. No? But we know the issue there. Some researchers will not categorize Kelly as really a cognitive, in a cognitive psychology strand that we know. But as you can see, there are related ideas with George Kelly that somehow mirrors our idea about the cognitive perspective, yung schema, about the structure of our cognition and all those things. May ganung idea si Kelly, pero iba lang ang tawag. Anyway, so much for that issue. That's, well, probably the board exam that will not appear, hopefully. 25, letter, 25. The following are related with psychodynamic perspective except. Ano hindi sa psychodynamic? 25, letter, boy. Kasi it's more related to humanistic, probably. So, tama itong letter A, just to have the brainstorming. Ha? Remember in the board exam, you're not just getting the right answers. Actually, probably there's actually no right answer. No? But you just have the best answer for a certain situation or for a certain question. Now, in the future installments of your lectures, we will be having case conference. And the goal of the case conference is for you to really make yourself sensitive to board exam questions, to case scenarios, to items that you are seeing in front of you. Kasi dapat, pag nakikita niyo yung item, marami nang tumatakbo sa isip niyo in the right direction. Ha? Kasi ang problema rin yung ibang estudyante, pag nakita nila yung question, lahat na inaral nila sa TOB lumalabas, pero hindi nila mahugot kung ano ang tamang tool to explain and to arrive to a certain answer. That is something that we will be doing in the case conferences. Pero for the benefit of the discussion, yung letter A, personality structures are almost complete by age 7. Is this true? Of course, you know that that might be related to psychodynamic. Pero the idea, is it true? Are you familiar with this concept or idea? We're talking about personality structure. Ano yung personality structure na binabanggit dito? Probably what? Ego, superego. Remember, Freud has personality. Diba si Freud, marami siyang propose sa psychoanalytic theory niya, sa psychosexual stages na, all of those things. No? May personality structure siya. Meron siyang may developmental theory siya. Meron din siyang idea about the memory, may idea siya about gender development. And even going more philosophical as the Thanatos, mga ganyan. No? So marami siyang pinropose. Pero, when it comes to personality structure, paano ang development yan? Diba? So, when it comes to psychology, no, most of the concepts, if not all, you always need to ask a good question to ask anywhere in the psychology world is, how do things develop? Wala namang pag pinanganak pa lang yung bata, may motivation na to go to board exam. Walang ganun eh. Diba? Wala namang pag pinanganak pa lang, meron na agad. Probably, ang meron lang would be what? Pag pinanganak ka, if you're talking about personality structure, alin dyan yung meron ka pag kapanganak mo pa lang? Ano? Eat. No? Yung ating instinct. No? That will be the eat. Now, kailan nagde-develop ang ego? Kailan nagde-develop ang ego? What age? What month? Somewhere around 6 months. No, meron na daw ego. Oh, hindi nga alam na. So, somewhere around 6 months, the child is what? Will be able to distinguish already what is what? Psychological to them and what is around them. Now, that is the assumption within this idea of personality structure. I'm not generalizing to all psychoanalytic, to all psychodynamic. But if you try to relate it with the other research, such as with the cognitive perspective, remember the idea of object permanence. Alam mo yung object permanence? Yung, alam nung bata na yung teddy bear, kahit itago mo, meron pa rin teddy bear sa mundo. Nakuha niyo point? Kasi yung mga bata ngayon, pag tinago mo yung bote, katulad ko yung baby ko, pag tinago mo yung bote, umiiyak na eh. Hindi niya alam eh. Alam lang niya na may bote kapag meron ng nakalagay sa bibig niya. Oh. Pero yung pag meron ng object permanence, ilang taon ng object permanence? Ilang months? Somewhere around 8 months. 8, 9 months, may object permanence na. So, if you have object permanence, ibig sabihin, you already have a way to mentally represent the world. Nawala yung teddy bear sa harap mo, wala nang sensation, ha? The sensation is the visual cue that there is a teddy bear. I'm not saying that she's a teddy bear. There's a teddy bear. There is a teddy bear. Pag tinanggal mo, wala yung visual cue. Pero sa kanya, alam pa rin niya sa isip niya na may teddy bear sa mundo. Ibig sabihin, meron certain way of mentally representing it. There is a certain way to distinguish whether this is real or not. Because you have a way to say na meron akong mental representation versus a visual cue. No? So it mirrors or it somehow it has some overlap with the 6-month criteria with the ego. No? So parang, uy, mukhang merong truth behind Freud. Meron naman talaga, no? Pero you will be explaining it in another idea, no? So that will be the ego. And ang super ego, kailan nade-develop? To fully develop it, or relatively develop it, no? It will be somewhere around 7. Yon. Kaya ano ba ang silbi ng super ego? It's more about morality, of course. It's more about, of course, if you're talking about the mechanism between the three, it balances the reality principle. You know those stuff, okay? But basically, it's the one that thinks more about morality, ethics, and if you can conform to the society's control, diba? So, kung morality ang pinag-uusapan, and you know, no, of course, with a lot of issues regarding whether a certain person knows what is right or wrong already. Di ba magic number nila yung 7 years old? Nakakapag-isip na daw kapag 7 years old and above. So, mga custody cases, di ba may ganyan idea? Oh. Pag 7 years old and below, automatic sa nanay. Pero pag 7 years old na po, pwede nang mamili, mag-decide at least. No? Kasi ang idea doon, somehow, the primordial mechanisms of our morality is working already by age 7. Yun ang idea nila for that. No? Well, you can also relate it with the cognitive development. No? Kasi by age 7, kahit papano, the child is already gearing towards concrete operational thinking. Ibig sabihin, meron na siyang idea on how to categorize things. And one idea about categorizing is whether this is right or wrong.
Nakuha nyo? So makita nyo, related pala itong mga cognitive stages, psychosexual stages, and even the development of personality. Related yan to each other. May mga idea na nag-overlap. So pag tinitingnan siya, dapat ganun siya makikita. So yung sabihin letter A, conceptually tama siya, di ba? No? With the idea about the personality structure. Okay? Punta tayo 26. (26 2 o'clock pala. So mga hanggang 10. Kasi ang naaalala ko dito, ang in-schedule ko, 7 tayo dapat mag-start. Even tomorrow, pero ganito nangyari. Just to remind you with the schedule. Bukas with the IO, we'll start by 9. I think I messaged most of you, if not all, and I also announced it sa Facebook. Kasi ang problema, we have problem in the venue such that we are forced to do IO 2 days sana. 2 days extended period na 7 to 7. Imagine that. But our professor also requested that if we can go back to the 3 days, we do our best to do a 3-day session. Kasi nga, namamalat na din siya as of this moment. So, makapagdating bukas, magsa-sign language na lang tayo. O pandidilata na lang niya kayo para, intindi nyo na yan, parang ganun. Hindi pwede talaga. No? So ngayon, we do this 8 to 5 or 8 to 5:30, bahala na. No? We'll do our best to do to make the discussion fast but productive. Okay? 26. Ano to 26? While conversing, Mr. B continuously narrates his sexual urges, fantasizes whenever he sees a worker. Alam niyo na to with the psychodynamic perspective, di ba? Ito, paano klaseng thinking ito? This is letter A. Primary process thoughts. So, ano yung mga primary process thoughts? Most of it are what? Influenced by the id. Okay? Whereas the secondary process thoughts is already an interplay between ego and superego. And, so kumbaga, yung secondary process thoughts, ito yung talagang pinag-iisipan. And there's already an aspect of regulation, self-regulation. It's the right term to use related to psychodynamic. Of course, it's not, pero that would be the nearest term. No? There's already an aspect of control and regulation when it comes to secondary process. Primary process was today is the id, no? So yun ang problema. If a certain behavior mandates you to do a secondary process thinking, pero ang style mo, primary process ka, problema yon. No? Psychopathological yon. May control issues ka when it comes to your urges. Diba? Okay, so, balik tayo sa number 27. You expect that the psychologist working in psychoanalytic framework will employ the following assessment technique except, baka hindi nyo nakita except, letter DOG, mini mental status exam. Alam niyo naman ang purpose ng MMSE kasi di ba nagturo na tayo nung nakaraan. Isang buong maghapon yan ginawa natin. At ang MMSE ay cognitive impairment ang mini-measure. Number 28. You identified various problems with Mr. V's case. Which of the following case report write-up is appropriate to describe Mr. V's gender identity concern? 28. Dapat sagot nyo ano? Letter C. You need, when you write case report, be as objective as possible. Kung ano yung na-observe yung behavior, yun ang isusulat ninyo. It is not to your decision to come up with whether his ego cannot control his id. Okay. Remember, you're creating a profile, you are creating a behavioral profile, a psychological profile, and you're giving context so that when you decide for a recommendation, for an intervention, and even diagnosis, objective, no? So you can just imagine if a certain psychometrician will write flowery words to make himself very matalino, when in fact mali naman yun. No, na isusulat niya, his super ego and he has different opinions about himself. Ganyan-ganyan. Pagdating mo sa diagnosis, paano ka magda-diagnose? Ego, super ego ba tinitignan sa DSM-5? Hindi di ba? It's the what? The actual behavior. Sa recommendation, paano ka gagawa ng recommendation? Directed towards a certain maladaptive behavior. How can you create an intervention for the id and super ego? Oh, well, we will increase the volume of the super ego. Hindi ganun di ba? You need to be very objective, okay? Ano yung nakita mo? Ang nakita mo, o ang narinig mo sa kanya, ang binanggit niya is whenever you see a handsome guy, gusto niya mag-masturbate. Bahala na yung psychologist, depende sa kanyang theoretical inclination kung ano ibig sabihin nun. Diba? Kung psychodynamic siya, baka he will be using ego, super ego. Kung naman behaviorist siya, baka sabihin niya is just a habit for him. Diba? So, okay, malinaw yan ha. 29. Mr. B joins various singing contests and impersonates different Hollywood actresses. He feels relieved and accepted. Actually, this is a real world example for me because hindi ako, yung patient ko malamin. Or my experience with some of the patients. 29 should be letter boy sublimation. I have a patient previously na ganyan. He really has a gender dysphoria. No? During that time na na-admit siya, marami siya psychotic events. And then, of course, later on, he was able to undergo remission. Naging okay naman siya, undergoing regular check-ups, psychotherapy, and some medication. And another thing is to decrease his anxiety regarding his gender. So ngayon, tanggap niya na yung kanyang pagkatao na gay siya. Kasi nung previously, hindi niya tanggap. Galit na galit pa siya sa mga gay. Kung nakikita niya si Vice Ganda sa TV, galit na galit siya. Pero hindi niya matanggap sa sarili niya na gay siya. Okay? Pero nung nasimulan niya na tanggapin na gay siya, doon na kasi okay siya, wala nang event, never na siya na-admit eh. I'm not sure kung ano nangyari, pero during my time na nakigugi ako. And one of the things na ginagawa niya is sumasali siya sa mga singing contest, mga gay singing contest sa barangay. So kung parang syempre mag-increase pa yung self-esteem niya kasi kumakanta siya, mapasaya na ibang tao. Pero in retrospection, no nga, Jason na pangalan niya. Oo nga. Sir, ano yan? Dissociative identity chuba yan. Hindi yan. Parang na tayo. 30? Diyos ko, hanggang 10 nga talaga tayo. Based on the DSM-40R, multi-Asian diagnosis, and may personality disorder ba si Mr. B? Wala. Ano itong multi-Asian diagnosis? In DSM-5, wala na multi-Asian diagnosis, di ba? Dahil nakita ng mga researchers from the APA, the American Psychiatric Association, that the multi-Asian diagnosis does not have any benefit regarding sa diagnosis and even sa intervention. Kumbaga, trabaho lang, wala naman siyang value when it comes to clinical practice. At least based sa research nila. Probably some therapists have used it, pero yun nga. Now, with the DSM-4 multi-Asian, the way you diagnose a patient, you have 5 axes that you need to deal with. So yung first axis, yung axis 1, it is talking about what? The psychiatric disorder or the psychological disorder, except what? Except mental retardation, at that time it's mental retardation ang tawag, and personality disorder. Now, If a patient has mental retardation or a personality disorder, yun ay maisusulat as axis 2 diagnosis. Sir, pwede ba kung magkaroon ng axis 1 diagnosis at axis 2 diagnosis? Actually, oo. Kasi ang guidelines ng DSM-4 are, you really need to have the 5 actual diagnosis. You have a diagnosis sa axis 1, probably schizophrenia, no? Disorganized type. At that time, may qualifier pang gano'n. You have the axis 2 diagnosis, pero hindi siya, nakalagay lang, premorbid, no? Premorbid schizoid personality. Pwede, gano'n. Kung meron na talaga siya, kung diagnosed or kung retrospectively magpo-qualify siya. And then yung axis 3 is what? General medical condition. Nagkataon tong patient to may hypertension. So, susulat nyo ito, axis 3, hypertension. No, based sa kanyang past medical history. No, it's not due to diagnosis, pero based sa past medical history niya, may axis 3 diagnosis siya. No? So kapag nagkaroon ng collaboration between the healthcare team members, kung ako, physical therapist ako, o kung ako ay medical doctor, malamang interesado ako sa axis 3. Titignan kung meron ba itong problema, baka may general medical condition. O kaya naman, minsan, clients have seemingly psychological events, pero yung pala, medical in origin pala talaga. So, mawawalan siya ng axis 1, mawawalan siya ng probably ng axis 2, pero ang problema pala niya, axis 3 pala talaga. Hindi pala siya nagsosomatization, meron pala talaga siyang ulcer. Makikita niyo sa multi-axial diagnosis. So, yung axis 4 ay is more about socio-occupational functioning. May trabaho ba ito? Ano ba ang problema nito when it comes to socio-occupational functioning? High school graduate lang ba, etc., whatever. Unemployed ba, etc. Okay? And then yung axis 5 is a global assessment of functioning. No, there's a rating tool for that. It's a clinician-led rating tool. It's the clinician who will use the tool. No, it's not self-rated. You will score based to 0 to 100 ang global functioning. So ano tinatanong sa global assessment of functioning? Maraming tinatanong dyan. Parang psychiatric rating scale din ang dating niya. Pero may kasamang butas. Di ba remember the World Health Disability Assessment Scale natin? So may tinatanong din about self-care, can this person assume this and that? Nagkakaroon ba ng dysfunction sa work? May mga suicidal ideation ba? Tendencies, etc. And then may rating yon from 0 to 100. So ang idea, dapat, the more na mababa ang global assessment of functioning, the more na dysfunctional yung client natin. And then towards the discharge, towards recovery, or towards remission of our patient, dapat tataas yung GAF score niya. No? So in the past, sa DSM-4, DR, ganyan ang style na multi-axial diagnosis. Pero sa DSM-5, wala na yan. Tinanggal na. Okay? So ngayon, ang tanong, may personality disorder ba si Mr. B? Based sa data that we have, wala. No? I mean, the small case snippet does not dictate anything about personality disorder. Even the related questions that gives certain bits and pieces of information, wala rin siya binabanggit. No? So, no. Yes, no. Access to diagnosis. Okay? Number, 31. This term describes Alport approach to study personality. 31, A, eclectic. How about 32? Rogers believed that all behaviors relate to one's, letter dog, actualizing tendency. Diba? Alam niyo naman yung sa humanistic, natin yan, isa sa mga nila. So people is motivated to do something because that there's a drive towards actualizing tendency. Kaya ngayon ang problema ay kapag ang tao walang motivation to do something, ibig sabihin, probably it's not, at least right now, they're not seeing it as a way towards actualization. Nakuha niyo yung point? So kung nawawala ka na ng gana sa work, isipin mo, ito ba talaga yung path para sa akin? No? Kasi baka mamaya, meron ng dinidikta yung puso ko, no? Na hindi na ito yung towards self-actualization. Pero may problema dyan. Paano kung hindi ka naman self-aware about yourself? Diba? Kaya importante ang self-awareness. Kaya ba kay Carl Rogers, isang importanteng concept yan. You need to have what? Self-awareness. Kasi baka mamaya akala mo, hindi yun ang path towards your self-actualization. Yung pala, hindi ka lang self-aware. Na yung ginagawa mo pala ngayon is actually one step para sa future. So pag naging self-aware ka na at nakita mo yung tamang pathway towards your goals in the future or the future that you want, magkaka-motivation ka na. Diba? Kasi, nakita mo, you're going towards self-actualization if you will do those things. Okay? Number 33, Tyler has a negative view of himself. Para ma-increase ang self-concept, continually praise and compliment him. Rogers believed that such praise and compliments are most likely to what? 33's letter, distort Tyler's perception. No? Kaya nga, di ba, mayroong guideline, or hindi man guidelines, pero there's an idea regarding compliments and praising. Kasi sometimes it distorts the idea of what you are doing or a certain behavior. So, di ba, sa educational, sa teaching nga, di ba, you praise the behavior, the positive behavior na pinakita ng student, not the student themselves na, you're really smart, ganyan. That might give some misconception on the case of the patient, diba? So it's letter dog. Okay. Number 34. In this theory of motivation, Maslow assumed that 34 is letter dog. Continually motivated by one need or another. So, tignan natin yung iba-ibang aspect nito. Yung letter A, people in different cultures have different basic needs. Actually, pare-parehas yung needs. Magkakaiba lang ng ano magkakaiba when it comes to the needs? It's more about what? The prioritization. Ano yung mas nauuna or ano yung mas salient to them? For example, studies between Western culture and East Asia culture. So sa East Asia, importante sa kanila self-esteem. Diba? So, mas nauuna yun more than love and belongingness. That's a possibility. Pero parehas meron ganun kasi ng needs. Okay? Yung letter B, always conscious motivation. Sometimes it's not. Yun yung binabanggit ko kanina, di ba? If you are not self-aware with what you are doing, then probably you are motivated to do something but you have no idea. Or probably you're not motivated to do something but you don't know why. Bakit hindi ako motivated mag-aral? Kailangan kong gawin ko, etc. Wala kang self-awareness, probably. So, motivation is not equated if whether you really have this self-awareness or in the parlance of the psychoanalytic, the consciousness to do it or not. Okay? Mali rin yung letter, say yung one need at a time. Actually, we are motivated based on a lot of needs and priorities. Okay? And even with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you don't need to 100% fully satisfy yung basic needs mo sa baba, physiological needs. So, number na tayo? 35. Okay. So, kung mapapansin nyo, may mga questions tayo na 5 choices. Meron tayong questions na 4 lang. Okay, so this is to simulate you to be prepared if ever there are in the future sa board exam, napakadima yung maging choices. No? We're not sure eh, baka mag-iba yan. No? Pero most of the time, the board exam is just for choices. No? Pero we are simulating it so that you will be prepared for whatever scenario. And at the same time, if you have 4 or if you have 5 choices, then it increases the difficulty of the question relatively. So it will really make, it's really a good practice on your part. Okay? Number 35, Maslow's concept of hierarchy of needs assume that 35 letter boy. Lower needs prepotency over higher needs. Of course, this is a very basic concept and notion about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, di ba? Baliktad naman yung letter A eh, di ba? It should be the letter B. Lower prepotency going towards the higher. Not the higher going towards the lower. Hindi, di ba? Pero let's check yung ibang choices. Love needs are more basic than physiological. At alam nyo na, di ba? No? Mas importante ang pagkain kaysa jowa. Kaya nga di ba ngayon, huwag na daw bulak-bulak, bigas na lang. Kasi mas importante ang physiological needs. Mali din yung letter D. Cognitive needs must be satisfied before aesthetic needs become motivators. No? So there's actually, this is not a good assumption regarding the cognitive needs and aesthetic needs. Actually, they work interdependently. No? Ganun din letter E. Letter D and letter E are just talking the same things, but it's not the right way to assume between these two. Okay? So alam niyo na itong number 35 na. 36. With regards to needs, which of these statement would Maslow endorse? 36. Letter C. The order of needs may be reversed in certain cases. Tama. Kasi diba kanina natin binabanggit, the basic needs are there. But the prioritization may change depending on the context, depending on the mood, scenario, whatever. Okay? So, yung letter A sa 36, mali, no? More fully than physiological. Hindi. Ibaliktad nga, dapat physiological needs at least partially for you to proceed with the safety need. Even with letter B, no? Usually conscious of their underlying, yun nga, kanina, explain na natin yan. Yung letter dog din, mali rin, no? One need must completely satisfy. Hindi. Hindi, wala na makapag-asawa sa akin. Kasi lagi tayong gutom. Kailangan completely satisfied, no? Kasi kung hindi ka focusin sa love and belongingness. If people, yung letter E mali din, no? Cannot satisfy their love needs, then they can skip to the level of esteem needs. Yun ang problematic yun. Kasi at least there's a partial fulfillment. So, kung sabi nga nila, Sir, paano kung hindi makapag-asawa? Hindi siya makapag-form ng self-esteem. Ano ka? Hindi ganun yun, di ba? Because yung love and belongingness, it's not just about the romantic relationship. No, the mere fact na meron kang friends, the mere fact na may family ka, etc., you actually practice that kind of belongingness and even love. No? So that can actually stem to going towards self-esteem. Okay? Number 37. Which of the following is not listed by Maslow as characteristic of self-actualizing people? It's more about letter E, people-centered. How about in 38? Personal construct are best defined as, personal construct na tayo. 38 ay dog. Now, nasa kabilang page pala. Baka hindi napansin na nasa kabilang page. Transparent templates, no? Help make sense of the world. 39. Kelly's fundamental postulate assumes that 39 should be letter boy. No? People guide their actions by the way they predict their future. It's a template, no? For them to move around and make sense of the world. No? 40. Which Kelly's corollaries seemingly incompatible beliefs o parang nakulit ko nung kanina. It's fragmentation, letter C. Okay? 40, letter C, okay? Yung dichotomy kasi, yan ay, di ba for example, we have this idea of right and wrong, black and white, whether it's a happy feeling versus sad feeling. Those are polarities between two ideas. So, as part of Kelly's corollary, no, people make sense of the world sometimes on those way of thinking, no? That there's a happy life, there's a sad life, there's right thing to do, there's wrong thing to do. So, ang problema kapag sa dichotomy, kapag hindi ka makapag-adjust, that there is somewhere in between. Masyadong strict. Yun ang problema sa isang problema. Pag tinanong, how do people have psychopathological behavior? So, kay George Kelly, ang isipin nyo, they have what? Strict compliance, adherence to a certain corollary, and they cannot what? They cannot adjust. No? So, kapag yung dichotomy, problema yun, di ba? Hindi nila maisip na there's in between, no? Or there is a compromise between. So, that's something. And even with fragmentation as well. Number 41. If you have a case, you are tasked to work in an HR recruitment, currently assessing applicability of psychometric tools of the company. Ito, lagi kong ginagawa. Most of the time, our students will message us. No, nasa HR daw sila, anong pwede na lang gamitin tests or tools, etc. Mararanasan niya pag nag-work na. Most of you probably are working already. You can relate to what I'm telling. 41. Understand the self-inventories and psychometric test 6 to what? 41, letter A. Describe lang. Wala ka naman mapapala doon kundi description lang. Whether how to explain it, kung bakit siya extroversion, bakit siya mas applicable into a managerial position, hindi natin alam. And less of prediction and even change. Although the idea that you can describe a personality, it will help you in the future if there will be some change that will be done on a certain behavior within the organization. Okay? What is happening? Is there a tornado? Malakas talaga yung hangin. Okay, sige. Anyway. Now just hold on to your seat. Fasten your seat lang. Okay, number 42. Hans Eysenck proposed a dimension model personality. Intense guilt feelings may be grouped into what dimension? 42? E. You're obviously saying. 43. An employee said, susundin ko, alam kong tama kahit may suggestion si boss. Probably the best answer is C. No, low agreeableness. Diba? Oh, alam niyo naman ang openness to experience, diba? Ang openness to experience is openness when it comes to new knowledge, new understanding. So that's a different idea. So with the openness, ang madalas na lower order traits niya is creativity, seeking adventure, yung mga ganon. No? Number 44. Trait theories often derive their personality models using which of the following? 44, obviously, is letter A, statistical analysis. Diba, alam niyo naman yan, even with Cattell, no? The factor analysis, kaya sila naka-arrive ng 16 p.m. Oh. 45. You saw your company has MBTI. You are quite knowledgeable on using it. Your company is involved marketing and door-to-door sales. So, dapat mataas ko sa certain things. Dapat mataas siya, 45 letter A. Diba? How about in 46? Si H, Miss H, wants to read novels, write news articles and blogs about current political issues. Yung coworker niya, si Mr. G, loves to write articles about realizations as an artist. Oh. They don't want to be a beat reporter. Ano yung beat reporter? Yung nasa field, no? Yung nandun sa labas ng Resorts World, na yung mga yan. Yan ang beat reporter. No? Which of your psychological types will best describe this scenario? 46, no? To make it easier, it's letter A. No? Introverted thinking, yung isa naman, introverted feeling type. No? Actually, this is a very obvious generalization for this. Kumbaga, tinatanong lang talaga kung alam nyo itong typology ni Carl Jung. Okay? 47, which of the following is not true about Costain McClay's big 5 personality traits? 47, letter? Not true. Hindi totoo. It's letter boy. Not culturally diverse. It's actually culturally diverse in the sense that this big 5 can be observed across culture, no? But there's a different behavioral expression that is more salient from one culture or another. Pero present siya. No? The concepts are there. The traits are there. Okay? So you know Costain McClay, di ba? They're the one who popularized the Big 5 theory of personality. Now, just to remind you, Costain McClay is not just about the 5 traits. It's not just about the Big 5 traits. Meron talagang theory or a certain framework, and well, it's relatively complex to draw, but most of the books have it. You can check with your books, no? That describes how this temperaments and how this personality tendencies of yours will lead to a certain behavior or will lead to a certain outcomes. And that framework also includes environmental forces. No? So they try to also account that this personality, itong Big 5, it's not working by themselves. I mean, it's working within the context of our environment. No? So you can check with your books. It's a complex diagram, but it's an easy diagram to understand. Okay? So, 48, an aspiring manager narrates his experience. Ito, nabigay ako kapag nagbenta yung mga apprentice or yung apprentice ko and sales partners. Gusto ko sundin nila yung plan na ginawa ko kapag nasa ayos may success, diba? Parang front row, kasi mga nasa front row siguro ito. Oh. Or in global, mga 48 ay letter C. Kasi conscientiousness is about one characteristic of being conscientious is what? Being organized. But if you have excessively high conscientiousness, no, tsaka sa masyado ka ng rigid, perfectionistic, no? So, and then high extroversion, of course, kasi very outgoing, very people-oriented, if you can call that. So, ibig sabihin, sa trait perspective, if you ask, how can a person be psychopathological? So, ang sagot, you have what? An imbalance between a certain trait. No? Either you have excessive of this or less of that, etc. Okay? So remember, every time that you are reviewing with a certain theoretical perspective, you always ask yourself, how can a person be psychopathological if we are to explain using this perspective? Laging ganun, may ganun idea. And then, tatanungin nyo sa inyo, how can I assess a certain person if I'm dealing with this theoretical perspective? Kasi yun ang nexus niya with assessment. Okay? And then, of course, how can I apply this in real-world scenario? So probably you can also cite some organizational and some industry related stuff. Yun naman ang nexus niya with IO. Okay? So, tawagan niyo na ba yung NDRRC? Kailangan natin humingi ng assistance dito for an extraction of ma-extract tayo dito of okay. So, number ano tayo? 49. Which of the following may be described as both high in conscientiousness and neuroticism? 49, letter A. OCPD. Kasi nga, obsessive compulsive personality disorders are what? Rigid and perfectionist. So, alam niyo na, it's high in conscientiousness. Pero ang problema nila, in combination with what? With neuroticism. Kasi ganito yan eh. Some people are really excessively organized and rigid. Pero it's not about being anxious. For example, surgeons. Kailangan conscientious talaga yan. Yung mga nasa operating room. Yung mga nurse dyan talaga pag magbilang ng tools parang wala nang katapusan. Kailangan nila talaga mabilang. Kasi paano may naiwan sa loob ng katawan ng tao? May problema yun. So they need to be very conscientious. Pero they are not doing it because they are anxious. They're doing it because they have a job to do. Ang problema with OCPD in combination with neuroticism. So it's not just imbalance between certain traits, but certain combinations can also be fatal, you know? So yun ang problema. Now, for example, yung nabanggit ko ba ito noon na there is a good paper regarding trait perspective, and they try to navigate the readers whether alin sa mga big five ang nag-lead towards a pathology. Based sa meta-analysis, they analyze a lot of studies. So ito na yung holy grail of proof of what traits lead to a psychopathology. And they tell, specifically in that research, they tell that the big five is not enough to explain. There is another six. If you're talking about psychopathology, may ika-anim na Hokage na kailangan nandoon. And that trait is disinhibition. Disinhibition. Whether you can control or not your behaviors, it's important. Kasi yung big five, wala siyang kwenta to explain addiction and some repetitive behaviors, concerns. And if you buy the idea that personality has something to do with your behavior and your and psychopathological behavior, then dapat yung personality traits can explain. Eh yung big five, it cannot fully explain. So there might be lower order traits or another higher order trait to explain. And one of which is disinhibition, nakita nila. No? And of course, neuroticism is really present in most of the... That's the number one. No, neuroticism. Across the board. Mataas. Neuroticism. Pero specifically for addiction and some behavioral issues and concerns, disinhibition yung isa. The other five hindi. Okay. Conscientiousness is they have a lot of assumptions, previous assumptions with conscientiousness. Pero doon sa research na hindi niya na-prove eh. Parang hindi siya ganun ka strong to believe that conscientiousness, high or low, will result to a certain psychopathology. Probably in combination with neuroticism. So yun ang findings niya. Okay? When it comes to extroversion, introversion, wala. Openness, wala din. Wala, pero merong marginal significance. Kapag masyado, ito ang problema sa openness. Pag masyado kang open to new experiences, etc. So, meron siyang marginal relationship with what? With risk behaviors. Yun naman ang problema. No? So, yun, I'll try to search my files. Hanapin ko yung title ng research na yun. No, that's the holy grail. Kasi meta-analysis of a lot of papers. So, parang hirap niya ng bangga eh. Yun na talaga siya. 40, 100. Visual thinking. 50. According to Eyesight, at the far end of continuous psychoticism is Oh, obvious na to. 50 letter boy. No? Impulse na to. Sullivan. Oh, Harry Stack Sullivan. Called needs that originate from a particular area of the body. O, alam niyo na to. 51. Zonal needs. Diba? 52. Sullivan Society as 52 letter A. Disruptive force of interpersonal relations. Remember si Sullivan yung interpersonal theory, no? So yan ang idea niya. Sa kanya rin yun, di ba, yung mga championship, diba? Naalala niya, sige, at least you have that context already. 53, experiences that are consensually validated, yun ang and symbolically communicated. Ayan yung, ang keywords dyan. Dapat ang sagot nyo ay syntactic, letter C. Parang yan yung parang yan yung primary process thoughts, secondary process thoughts. Naalala niyo kayo yung syntactic, yan na yung secondary process thoughts. Parang ganun yung mirror, concept niya. Yung prototaxic, yun yung parang primary process thoughts. I mean, it's triggered by our instinct. If I'm not mistaken, the parataxic is the dysfunctional one. Can you check with your literatures? Yung parataxic, yung parang dysfunctional way of thinking. Okay? Okay. 54. Same-sex relationships and the development of intimacy characterizes this developmental stage. 54 is letter C, pre-adolescence. 55. Last marks the beginning of. 55 ay letter C. How about in 56? According to Erickson, which of this is the most important aspect of ego? 56 letter C, ego identity. And you know that that the ego, the identity formation for Erik Erikson, anong stage yun? Oh, yun na yun, diba? And anong age group pala? Nasa adolescence, diba? 57, to Erikson, the ego develops. 57, A, within the social structure. Yun nga pinagkaiba niya with the psychosex one. Ito, it's more about, ang trigger ng development mo is the environment, the people around you. Hindi katulad sa psychosexual, ang trigger ng development po is depending kung nasan yung erogenous zone. No? So yun ang pinagkaiba. 58. Epigenetic principle in the parlance of Erickson. Yan ay C. Develops in sequence, emerging and built on top of another. It's very important. 59. Erickson believed that lamp is the basic strength of infancy that will be 59. Hope, letter A. Di ba meron yan yung basic strengths na nabubuo based doon sa dalawang concept? And you do understand that those antithetical concepts, yung trust versus mistrust, yung initiative versus guilt, yung mga yan, hindi po kailangan puro trust lang. No? Kailangan balance. A little bit of mistrust, trust, spice, and everything nice. Parang gano'n. Hindi po pwedeng sobra yung isa o puro trust lang. Kasi mahirap po puro trust lang. Madaling mapaniwala, madaling maloko. Laging nabubudol-budol. Laging iniiwan ng boyfriend. Kasi puro trust. Mahirap naman yung puro mistrust. Di ba? Paranoid ka naman. Ganun din with initiative versus guilt. Industry versus inferiority, ganun din. And you do remember that it extends all the way to late adulthood, di ba? Ego integrity versus despair. Okay. Pero with ego integrity versus despair, dapat ang end goal mo is ego integrity. That's the best thing for your development. Pag matanda na. Yung walang regrets, thankful sa nangyari sa buhay niya, can openly tell stories about himself, yan, ego integrity yan. Number na tayo, number 60. Heidi. Heidi is beginning to make new friends of her age. For the first time in her life, she has developed relationship with adults who are not in her family. 60 is letter. Parang may concern yung answer niya. Dapat ano to? Dapat to dapat to school age. Parang answer ko kasi adolescence. Di ba, school age pa lang, ano na eh. You're already forming not in the family. Edi syempre, di ba, this is school age. 60 letter T. 61. In case I work with a family therapist regarding Mrs. F's family problems recently, their youngest son resorted to substance abuse. Eldest daughter had teen pregnancy. Middle child studying in college. Sabi ni Miss F, wondered why contrary to popular notion about middle child, bakit ganun nangyari? Ang magandang sagot ay letter C, di ba? Still depends on interaction. They have experience. Ang napaka-pessimistic naman yung letter A, no? You just need to wait, no? You will do something bad. Ayun ang problema kasi naging self-fulfilling practicing na lang yung ano, di ba? Ganun din yung letter T, ni-reword lang. 62. Family constellations such as this case best demonstrated in the report as genogram. 62, letter A. Di ba naalala niyo yung discussions natin with the family systems? One way to show the family structure, kung ano yung relationship between nanay, tatay, may anak, may pinsan, gano'n, it's genogram. No? It's actually a diagram of the family structure. 63. Adler popularizes the approach of looking at the family constellation because of the following, except 63, letter C. No, of course, regarding Oedipal Electra complex, hindi yan related with Adler. And APP are the ones that's related. No? 64. Which of the following is least likely to explain the substance abuse of Mrs. F? Least likely. 64, letter C. High expressed emotion. So most of the time, yung idea about high expressed emotion, it's not related with substance use, but more related with psychotic events and borderline personality disorder. Okay? Number 65. When asked on the details about their father, Miss F suddenly reacted not to talk about it anymore. You understand that this is an example of, so consciously, ayoko na pag-usapan yan is letter dog, 65, dog, suppression. Alam niyo naman pinagkaiba-iba niyan, di ba? Magkakatulad lang yung tunog, pero magkakaiba yan. No? Ano yung suppression, consciously, or they are self-aware to not talk about it. Ano yung unconscious, nakakalimutan niya is, yun yung repression. Yung regression, ano yan? Yun yung, their behaviors is what? Mirrors an earlier developmental stage, no? So yung behavior niya hindi akma doon sa developmental stage niya. They try to resort to a certain behavior that is typical of a previous developmental stage. Okay? So, sir, yung regression po, ano po yan? Sa statistics po yan. May makakatuloy. Ano yung reaction formation? Di ba ito yung common na yung the more you hate, the more you love. Yan yung signature niya, di ba? Paradigm niya. 66, the eldest daughter said, I eloped with my boyfriend that time because my father is so strict. Alam niyo na kung anong defense mechanism. Di ba kanina napag-usapan natin yon? This is more of projection. Nakatwiran pa. Hindi na sabi gwapo. Kaya, nagtanan. Puso ko ba yung tanan-tanan ngayon? Hindi ganun pa ba? 67. You understand that the youngest son is manifesting denial when he says, alin dyan ang denial? More of letter, C. Sometimes when things are really tough, I go with my friends to party. This is acting out. And that's actually one idea why this person is denying, no? Tingnan niyo yung ibang situation. No? My family is now ruined and I don't know what to do. Wala man denial dun eh. Wala na talaga siyang awareness. Mababa yung insight niya. Pero hindi naman niya dinedeny. Hindi niya alam eh. Lost siya, probably. No? Ganun din yung letter D. I don't seem to understand. And letter D, ganun din. I don't like what is happening now. That's why I confronted my father. No? So ito, may awareness at hindi niya dinedeny. But in fact, he did something to confront it. Face to face, no? So yung letter C ang best answer here. Ito yung okay. 68. For Adler, the person's final goal is to ultimately shape by 68, the term is creative power. So remember, may mga specific terminologies, especially with the psychodynamic perspective. Maraming mga theorists dyan na may mga very specific concepts and terminologies na probably for the benefit of the board exam, you study them because the board members are actually fond of infusing lots of things regarding the psychodynamic. Ganun talaga, wala tayong magagawa. So for the benefit of the board exam, you study them. Pero mainstream, if you go mainstream, even with therapy, even with research, no? Hindi na to masyadong pinag-uusapan. No? For example, in Singapore, the curriculum with theories of personality, they go straight with genetics. Their introduction is biological basis of behavior. Then they go straight to how genetics is related to our traits. Then they discuss the big five traits. Then they discuss those higher and lower order traits going towards certain behavior. And then they will discuss cognitive neuroscience. Why certain people behave this way, etc., etc. And if they have time, that's the only time they will discuss historically as a backgrounder the psychodynamic and even the humanistic. So they viewed them as historically and conceptually important things, but to empirically explain, that's problematic. So, yun ang naging... Di ba, remember kanina yung una nating question, to have an internally consistent theory, you need to operationalize things. Pag na-operationalize mo, kapag experimentual mo, ma-observe mo. Mapuproof mo ngayon kung reliable ba yung certain theory to explain the behavior. Kung masyadong conceptual yung mga terminologies that you cannot really pin down the exact operationalization, then mahirap yun. How can you tell scientifically that my concepts are really valid and reliable? When in fact, we cannot even measure it. How can you operationalize ego? When in fact, you cannot even measure it. So now, there's this question whether is it really a reliable idea to characterize our personality based on ego, superego, when in fact we cannot really measure it face value. So that's an issue that you need to remember and understand. Ha? But for the benefit of the board exam, you need to memorize some of the terms. Kasi we don't, at the end of the day, it's still pragmatic, di ba? At the end of the day, you still need the license, you still need to have work, yun ang bubuhay sa inyo. Basic needs pa rin. 69. Meron naman tayong progress. Matatapos naman tayo. 69. Adler also proposed that people strive towards superiority through one of two paths. So this is also specific to Adler. 69 is letter C. Personal gains exaggerated. No? So yung isa kasi social interest, yung isa pansarili. No? How about in 70? Adler believed that ghost of a pathological person is 70 letter A. Exaggerated and unrealistic. So meron din silang idea, no? Even with the psychodynamic. What went wrong kaya naging psychopathological? So for Adler, this is one idea. Okay? And even in number 71, sensation seeking is implicated in the following except. Except 71. The best answer is letter A. Implicated, ibig sabihin, related o explanation siya, bakit siya ganon. So, sensation seeking, no, some researchers will argue that it's one of the lower order traits of openness to experience. They try to seek for thrill, adventure, new experience, new knowledge for that purpose. So yun ang problema with this behavior, sabi nila mataas yung sensation seeking. But of course, in relation with other traits and other maladaptive behaviors as well. Even paraphilia and safety issues. Like yung iba yung mga daredevil, yung hindi nag-seatbelt, di ba? So yun. With depression, not so much of sensation seeking. It's not that related. 72. People actively seek environment that is suitable to their liking and interest. Because of the following except. Bakit? 72 letter C. Escape troubles and family environments. Hindi eh. No? It's not the best possible explanation why there's roughly some the environment. But you understand the idea between the active, passive, and evocative gene environment. Was that explained with TOP or with outside? Pero yung I think with outside, with Roman Sukani, that was explained regarding active seeking of environment. Diba? So there's what we call the gene-environment interaction. Tatandaan niyo, baka ibang terminology lang with mga Sukani. Pero the idea is there is this active, there's passive, and there's evocative gene-environment interaction. Okay? So yung active interaction between genes and environment, no? You have this genetic predisposition, and that genetic predisposition allows you to what? Allows you to seek certain environment that is fit to you. So for example, regardless of what genotype, endophenotype, or phenotype processes involved, pero assuming you have this predisposition towards introversion, you have this genetic whatever makeup with going towards introversion. So dahil yun ang genetic makeup mo, you are predisposed to what? To seek environment that will fit for an introverted person. So it will be very weird if a certain introverted person is doing yung ganon. Probably, I'm not sure, no? Paminsan-minsan lang siguro. But probably they will seek environment na tipong nakapaligid sa kanila books, or they just listen to music, they have quiet time, di ba? May mga mindfulness chamber pa sila ginagawa, no? So that's the active gene-environment interaction. Ano yung passive? No, meron namang passive. It's the environment that influences you. No? So, kabaliktaran naman siya. And then there's what you call evocative gene-environment interaction. Ano yung evocative? Ito medyo mas complex naman. No? Kasi you are influencing the other people because of what you are. No, that's a very conceptual way to do it. No, kumbaga because of your traits or your characteristics. Halimbawa, nagkataon masyado kang suplada, masyado kang mabilis mainit ang ulo mo, so kang irritable. No? So bakit ka magtatanong, bakit ba kayo lungkot-lungkot ng buhay ko? No? Eh kasi na-evoke niya yung ganung klase ng environment. Yung una, di ba, active. You seek environment. Di ba? Ito, na-evoke. Ikaw yung gumagawa ng environment mo na. Dahil suplada ka, irritable ka, yung mga tao sa paligid mo, natatakot sa'yo, naiinis din. So ngayon, yung environment mo ngayon is an environment of a little bit cold kind of environment. People are a little bit detached to whatever. So that's the evocative process there, no? So you just remember that's one concept that you need to remember, ha? O, nasaan tayo? 73. Which of the following statement indicates external locus of control? Ito, madali na to. 73 letter, dog. My boss is perfectionist, that's why my work will never match. External ang explanation niya, bakit gano'n na nangyari sa kanya. No? So you know the difference between external and internal locus of control. 74. Levenson is a researcher for regarding locus of control. Investigated locus of control and how it affects human behaviors. Which of the following does not explain this phenomenon? 74, letter A. It does not drive the locus of control. Ngayon, just a reminder, in the board exam, probably you will be presented with a question na parang meron siya sinasite na literature or research na minsan alien, hindi mo nga alam kung ano yun. Parang ngayon mo lang narinig. No? So, well, it's not expected that all of us will know all of the theories and researches, especially those old researches that the board members know. Pero just prepare yourself that there might be some questions like this. Ako, I specifically included this question just to simulate that idea na sino si Levenson na ito? Bakit ko dito? Sino siya? Pero the idea that we're talking about locus of control, kumbaga, you practice your common sense and pragmatic approach when it comes to questions. You try to deduce and by the mere fact that the items tells you that, for example, the letter B, personal capability, alam yung internal yan, di ba? Internal locus of control yan. Yung powerful others, alam yung external yan. Kumbaga, parang wala kang control sa buhay mo kasi some people are really that way, kaya ikaw na ganun yung nangyayari sa'yo. That's powerful others. Or chance, no? No, might explain, no? Destiny, chance, no? Talagang pagkakataon lang, kaya ganun. So, external locus of control pa rin yung letter Do. But anxiety is a different notion. It does not relate to locus of control directly. Okay? So, madededuce nyo naman sa items, no? Kumbaga, pang-demoralize ng minsan yung mga ganong klase ng question na parang may nagsasite na, ay, according to the research of this, we did the meta-analysis and chenes, tapos ganito. Pero yung pala, hinahanap lang, basic concept nyo lang about, for example, anxiety, o basic concept nyo lang about depression. Kasi parehas lang din naman ang binabanggit. So, you need to have that common sense and pragmatic approach presented with that kind of question. Okay? 75. Client told you she was not responsible for her depression. She will not do anything about it. So aside pa sa locus of control ng problema, may problema siya sa inside. No, hindi niya ayaw niya tanggapin o hindi niya matanggap na meron siyang depression at hindi niya gagawa ng paraan. It's what? It's reminiscent of what? With the mental status exam that we're doing with our patient, di ba? Wala siyang insight, no? 76, you're assisting a psychologist creating psych report. Which of the following may be included in the recommendation part? Develop internal locus of control. If there's really a need for you to recommend such kind of thing. No, for the benefit of practicing the concept, you should have answered letter A. Ma-appreciate niya yung strengths and weaknesses niya para alam niya na dahil sa sarili niya kung bakit ganito yung outcome ng buhay niya. Diba? That's internal locus of control. No? And the rest is relatively not related, like letter B, no? Hindi, even with letter C, suddenly not everything can happen as planned. So, ibig sabihin, you're expecting that something outside your control can happen. Yun yung letter C, sinasabi ng letter C, di ba? That's external locus of control. Yung letter D, ano sabi? Should adopt healthy defense mechanism. Iba na pinag-uusapan dito sa letter T. Hindi na siya concept about locus of control. Outside na yan sa idea. Okay, 77. Learned helplessness might explain which of the following mental health concerns. This is actually one of the signature questions. 77 letter to suicide. And of course, related concept will be depression, di ba? Alam niyo naman learned helplessness, right? 78. Studying different theoretical perspective is important because of the following except. 78. To help categorize. No? It's not the goal of the theoretical perspective. No? 79. According to Jung, a person's first test of courage is 79. Letter A. Realize her shadow. His or her shadow. Totoo ba yun? First test of courage ko yata pumasok sa school, halimbawa. Kasi iba yung mga ibang bata, umiiyak pa pumapasok sa school. Joke lang. No? Of course, yun nga sabi ko sa inyo, these theories have very specific concepts within their formats. You need to understand them and read them. Kasi in the board exam, lalabas. At kailangan alam nyo kung ano yun. Minsan nga, ang tinatanong lang sa boards, kung ano yung related. Kung baga, nililito-lito lang niya, pero yung mga choices, babagitin niya, Adler is blah blah blah, ganito, ganyan. Which of the one will explain blah blah blah? Lahat ng terminologies alien. Pero kung alam mo yung mga terminologies na related to Adler, regardless whether you know it or not, pero alam mo lang related siya kay Adler, makikita mo doon sa 4 choices, yung isa lang ang related kay Adler, yung iba hindi. So alam nyo na, yun na yung sagot. That's a pragmatic way of answering a board exam question. No? Pero of course, before you will be able to arrive at that kind of thinking process, dapat alam nyo yung mga terminologies. So you need to go back to your books, to your literatures, to your handouts, and familiarize yourself with all those terminologies, concepts for each of the theories and their theories. Okay? Sige, number na tayo. 80. Jung's analytical psychology, the center of consciousness is A, the ego. Okay? Number 81. And the situation is about a psychometrician working in a private high school tasked to do preliminary assessment of students. Jung used all of the following assessment except what? Probably is letter boy. IQ test. Alam niyo na kung ano tinatanong dito sa question na ito, di ba? Yung mga tools and mga assessment tools natin. No? Mark was deferred because argumentation and shouting with the teacher, oftentimes Mark cannot work with teams. Alam niyo to, this is more of oppositional defiant disorder. So 82 is letter C. Alam niyo naman to, alam niyo yung mga acronym, so don't be surprised if sometimes the items or the choices acronym lang. So dapat alam niyo kung ano yung acronym. Alam niyo naman yung ADHD, di ba? Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. Alam niyo naman ADT. Di ba merong attention deficit lang? Meron naman hyperactive disorder lang. At may combination ADHD. Meron din ASPD. Ano yan? Autism, no? Autism, and then, an antisocial personality disorder, ASPD. ASD to, di ba? ASD yung autism spectrum. And then conduct disorders. Okay? 83. Also, Mark may have low scores in which of the personality trait? 83. Related to the case is letter C, agreeableness. 84. Current school policy have closed door policy for those who are late. Okay, which of the following is not a viable explanation? So the answer is letter C. No, it may serve as a fixed ratio. Okay? How about in 85? According to Skinner, internal mental states such as thinking, foresight, reasoning does not exist in 85. Ay, 85? Boy, exists but should not be used to explain. Meron, pero hindi siya ganun ka-importante to explain what's happening. Ang mali yung letter A, do not exist. Okay? So letter B ang sagot sa number 85. 86, Skinner favored reward over punishment largely because, alam niyo na, characteristics between the rewards and punishment, di ba? The one that will result to a better link between the increase of certain behavior would be the reward. No? And the answer in 86 is letter C. No? Less predictable. Punishment. Effects of punishment. Less predictable. Okay. And you know that negative reinforcement is not equal to punishment. Diba? You remember the idea? Reinforcement, punishment. Diba? Meron pa kasi positive and negative punishment. So yung pagiging positive at pagiging negative, it's not about the morality of things, no? Na hindi lahat ng bagay dito sa moral issues or politics, ha? So the positive and negative is either just a presence or absence. No? So pag positive reinforcement or positive reward, you give something that is desirable on the point of view of the child or the student. Pag negative naman, you remove something or you let the client not do something, and that is rewarding for that client. Diba? Pag positive punishment, you implement something that is uncomfortable. Pag negative naman, you remove something like nag-remove ka ng anong tatanggalin mo? Pera, privileges, cellphone. Tinanggal mo yon at uncomfortable yon para doon sa client. So yun ang tatandaan nyo palagi. Skinner. 87 na pala. One of the teachers told you that she often gives clues whenever the student is having a hard time. Ito ay tinatawag na scaffolding, letter A. Yung nahihirapan siya, so ikaw, you will do some constructive way of helping the person, not giving the answers, but leading the student going towards the answer. So hindi niya masagot yung certain math problem, for example. So you do scaffolding like, remember with the previous problem solving na ginawa natin, we use this technique. Would you think this will work this time? Can you try that? So hindi mo binigay sagot, pero tinulungan mo siya na, ay, ito pala yung tamang line of thinking. No? That's scaffolding. Ano yung shaping? Shaping. Sir, ano yung contouring para pumakas yung ilong? Logo, hindi. Ang shaping is, it's a way to what? To develop certain complex behavior. For example, potty training. Paano mo matuturuan yung baby mo mag-potty training? No? From pag nasa edad 1-year-old na siya. So hindi po pwedeng automatic, no? Pupunta siya sa CR, tapos pupupo siya. Hindi eh. You need to first teach the child to understand whether natatai siya o hindi. Yung pakiramdam na nadudumi, you explain it to the child. Tapos pagkatapos, the child also need to know how to remove his pants or yung short niya. Kasi oo nga, sinabi mo, doon ka sa CR, huwag ka dito sa kama iihi, doon sa CR. Oo nga, sa CR nga siya umihi, pero with shorts on. Ganun din, may problema din. So with shaping, dahan-dahan mo, binabago yung behavior, and the outcome is the desired behavior. Okay? So ibig sabihin, you need to teach your child to remove the pants, know how to go to the CR, or even open the lights, whatever. So yun, no? Shaping. So yun ang idea, how complex behaviors are being developed. It is actually being shaped by whatever agent around us. So yun. Ano yung higher order conditioning? Familiar kayo dyan? Higher order conditioning. Now remember the relationship between the conditioned response, conditioned stimulus, the neutral stimulus, unconditioned stimulus, whatever, di ba? So once conditioning happens, no, yung conditioned stimulus will create conditioned response. Ngayon, in the future, there might be some stimulus that will be paired not dun sa original na stimulus, but dun sa conditioned stimulus na. Okay? So, kumbaga, the conditioning happens on top of each other. Higher order conditioning na. Okay? So that's the concept of the higher order conditioning. The spontaneous recovery, you know spontaneous recovery, right? An extinct behavior suddenly reappears for whatever reason, and it reappears by the virtue that the stimulus response link is activated again. Certain stimulus results to a certain response again. No? Well, previously na extinct na. Okay? So, the recency effect, of course, you know recency effect. Number 88, you know that constant praise whenever a student answered correctly results to what? 88, parang parehas ko ng question kanina. No? 88 letter boy. 88 is, ano yung letter boy dyan? No? Extinction as time goes by. Whenever, kasi, tumama siya, you praise. Baga nire-reinforce mo yung behavior. Para next time, tatama siya ulit. You praise again. So, yan ay what? Continuous reinforcement ang strategy mo dyan. Ang problema with continuous reinforcement versus variable is what? Mabilis na yung extinct. Mabilis nawawala ng effect yung reinforcer. Next time, parang common na lang yung pinupuri ka. Di ka tuloy kapag variable yung reinforcement. So, hindi mo alam kailan. Kaya nga di ba sa mga casino, yung mga slot machine, mas nakaka-reinforce. Kasi hindi mo alam kung kailan lalabas yung tatlong cherry. Hanggang sa nasunog na lang, wala na. Diba? Ganun. Bakit hindi siya A? Increase in desired behavior over time. Both ways, continuous and variable, they can increase behavior. No? Ang problema is with continuous, there's this element of extinction. So over time, ano siya? Kumbaga, kapag in-raft mo yung strength ng stimulus, ay ng strength ng reinforcer, the effects of the reinforcer to the behavior, pag in-raft mo siya, sa variable, pataas. Very reinforcing. Pero, with a continuous reinforcement, curvilinear siya. So, umpisa lang siya pataas, pero later on, bumababa yung effect niya. Such that it might not increase the behavior anymore. Baliktad naman, na extinct na, it does not have effect anymore. So, yun ang problema niya. Kaya hindi letter A ba yung tinatanong mo? O, ba't hindi letter A? Okay. Oo, sige. And then yung letter C and D is relatively distractor lang. It does not tell anything about the issue. No? 89. Bandura believes that learning, okay, Bandura na tayo. 89 letter A can occur in the absence of a response. No? So tatlong board exam na yung lumipas, pero never tinanong si Bandura, if I'm not mistaken. Well, in fact, Bandura is yung human agentic perspective or yung alam natin na social cognitive perspective ni Bandura is one of the parsimonious and with high explanatory power when it comes to why people behave, why people is doing this thing. Pero it's not being asked in the board exam. Anyway, it is hindi masaya. At least, pero you need to know, okay? You still need to know. Kasi yan ay part ng pagiging scientific psychology. 90. Which of this is most likely to increase self-efficacy? 90 letter dog. Performance accomplishment. The more that you did the task well or successfully, the more na mas nag-increase yung self-efficacy. Kasi ang definition ng self-efficacy or the basic understanding with self-efficacy is what? Whether you can do it or not. Diba? So, the mere fact that you have done it before, then it is some automatic response for us that we will do it again this time. Kasi nagawa ko na nga siya sa past. No? So, yan na 19. 91, compared with Freud, that object relations is 91, letter boy. More on interpersonal. 92, Klein believed that feelings of anxiety about losing a loved object and sense of guilt for desiring to destroy that object is part of what? 92B, depressive position. Kaya ito yung isang explanation bakit may yung mga depressed person have this suicidal tendencies. Nasa na tayo? 93. During separation individuation stage, Mahler said children begin to, letter A, develop feelings of personal identity. Number 94, Bowlby's theory. Bowlby, remember Bowlby in regards to attachment? Diba? So dapat nasagot sa 94 is letter C. Mother-child bonding becomes the model for future relationships. And research will tell us that, for example, even with romantic relationship, it highly mirrors our previous attachment or the way we relate with a certain guardian or parent probably. No? So, you may want to read researches regarding this, yung kay Mahler, yan, or kay Bowlby, yung attachment theory. Of course, in your theories of personality lectures, probably this was not emphasized, but just to prepare yourself for the worst, you may want to read at least a certain concept or two, at least para pag lumabas siya sa board exam, kahit distractor siya, at least alam nyo na hindi siya related doon sa tinatanong. Di ba minsan nakakatulong yun, na alam nyo na, ay, ito si ganyan yan eh. Hindi naman ito yun eh. So dapat itong isa yung sasagot ko. So those kinds of things that will help you succeed in the board exam. Ainsworth found that secure infants will, 95 letter boy, approach their mother when she returns to the room. Number 96. Which of these statements most accurately reflects one of Horney's neurotic needs? 96, letter A. I need emotionally strong person to tell. Alam niya na yan, ha? 97. Ashley feels alienated from her femininity, wishes that she were a man. Horney should or would say that Ashley desires originate from 97, letter A. Cultural privilege of men. Kaya daw may ganong klase ng gender concerns. 98. Horney believed that most neuroses are a result of, letter A, unhealthy interpersonal relationship. 99. Children who feel isolated from others are likely to develop neurotic trend moving towards or what? 99 is letter A, away. It's not towards, it's away. Kasi nga, isolation nga ang pinag-uusapan niya. Okay? Oh, number 100. One of Fromm's basic assumption, Eric Fromm tayo, is that people have been torn away from union with nature, lacking adequate animal instinct, must rely on reason. This is more of letter B, human dilemma. So these are very specific concepts and terminologies. You want to read them again, and the only way to deal with them is actually to know them and, well, memorize them, at least to make you familiar para masagot nyo siya. Okay? So, that finishes our Theories of Personality mock exam 1. Let's be back. Let's have a break, 15-minute break, no? Kasi you need to refresh your neurons. And then we'll start with outside all the way to 5:30. Okay? Sige.